ำหรับ Key Speaker ท่านแรกที่จะมาพูดนะคะท่านเป็นชาวต่างชาติแต่ว่ามีความเชี่ยวชาญในเรื่องของวัฒนธรรมอาหารไทยมากที่สุดมีประสบการณ์การทำอาหารมาตั้งแต่ที่ออสเตรเลียนะคะที่อังกฤษและปัจจุบันนี้เป็นผู้ก่อตั้งร้านอาหารร้านน้ำพูดมาแบบนี้แล้วเชื่อว่าทุกท่านคงจะทราบแล้วนะคะว่าเป็นใครแล้วก็เชื่อว่าหลายๆท่านเป็นแฟนของร้านอาหารร้านน้ำนี้ด้วยเช่นเดียวกันนะคะซึ่งเป็นร้านอาหารที่ได้รับการโหวตว่าเป็นร้านอาหารอันดับ13ของโลกในปี 2014 ค่ะวันนี้นะคะคุณเดวิด ทอมสันจะมาพูดเรื่อง Future Food Business Buddhism and Cooking ฟังหัวข้อแล้วสงสัยแล้วใช่ไหมคะว่าพุทธศาสนาของเรามาเกี่ยวอะไรกับการทำอาหารเดี๋ยวคุณเดวิด ทอมสันจะมาเฉลยค่ะขอเสียงปรบมือดังๆต้อนรับ Mr. David Thompson
สวัสดีครับทุกคนนะครับ I've been trying to think in the VIP room earlier today, trying to think what to say to you in order to be able to begin to express my abiding love affair with Thai food and the meaning behind it. I first came to Thailand in 1986 เมื่อ26 ปีก่อนนะครับ and I became entranced, ensnared, caught up with the way that Thais are, not only with their food, but in the way that they live. So very, very, very different from the country I was from Sydney, from Australia, where everything was so organised, everything was so safe. Here in Thailand, here in Bangkok, it was a different world, a crazy world, a delicious world, as vibrant and as strong as the taste of the food. So very different from the rather bland Anglo-Saxon food that I had as a child. And yet, when I first came to Thailand, it wasn't just about the food. It was about so many other things that was so attractive about this country. But bit by bit, I became seduced with one aspect in particular, the way that Thais eat and their food. I started off as a cook longer than 28 years ago. Oh my God, it's hard to believe that it's so long ago. And I was always interested in food. But when I first came to Thailand, the food that I encountered was so radically different from the food in Australia. And one of the times when I came over here, and I still remember the date, it was in 1988 when I started to move here, I met this old woman, a Kon Chao Wang. I called her Kun Yai because out of respect. And she was a Kon Chao Wang. She was one of the last of her generation to have been brought up in an old palace where the food that she cooked had a character that was rare, as rarefied as the Malur, as rarefied as those palaces are now in modern Thailand. And the style in which she cooked and the taste and the depth and the dimension just completely shocked me, beguiled me, seduced me and won me over. I still remember the dish. Geng som pla chon tod, got bai makam. I still remember it. I can see it in my mind's eye. I can actually almost taste it too. So wonderfully convincing was her rendition of quite a common dish that I realized that Thai food had so much more than just merely the conventional cliches that I came across in Sydney and elsewhere in the world. Not in her hands did this sour orange curry seem just commonplace. It made me begin to have an inkling, an understanding, the beginning of an idea, the germ that Thai food might be much, much more than just merely the money bags or the som tam or the green chicken curries that litter Thai menus across the world, delicious though they are, not necessarily representing the vast diversity in the repertoire. It was then I started to realize that Thai food or food in Thailand meant much, much more than food alone. That it was an integral part of Thai culture, of Thai wisdom, of the way that Thais are. And I came to the conclusion, and I still hold it, I have to say, that if there are two words that could describe Thai culture, it's their soul and their stomach. The soul is very easy to understand because every morning you can see Buddhist monks and people, the faithful, attending their daily rituals as they feed their monks, or when they go to their temples to the Wat during one prat, or whenever there's time of celebration, of anniversary, of recollection, or any obligation. And there's no question, of course, the gusto, the hunger, the appetite the Thais have for their food when they eat incessantly, deliciously and happily and convivially, because you see, that's what makes a Thai, is the enjoyment of life and in particular the enjoyment of their table. I became convinced by that. No, not convinced by it, seduced by it. I was overwhelmed by it. And I decided to change my whole way of thinking, or my whole career path, really, I suppose. I was a cook beforehand, cooking Western food, thinking that French and European food triumphed over Asian food and all other types of cuisines. And I was terribly, terribly wrong. And this first person, this Kun Yai, Kun Janapat, gave me the first indication of how wrong I was. Through my partner, Kun Tanonsak, I then started to do some investigation to realise that there was more in the repertoire than just simply a geng som or a green curry or a namprik gapi, the conventional dishes that one finds in a home today. That in fact, Thai food had a venerable history, an extraordinary history, and consequently a most remarkable repertoire of recipes, ancient and old and delicious and unique, an intangible heritage that should be shared by the world, and certainly eaten by the world too. As you probably know, the Thais have many customs surrounding food, and one of the things that helped me understand more and more about Thai food was the custom of Nang Si Nang Sop, that is memorial books, when people who pass away, at their cremation ceremony, books that were distributed, in which was contained the life and the habits and the interest of the deceased. And in those books, there were so many possible recipes that were quite unique. I have a very large collection of these books, about 500 or no more, probably about 1,000 of these books, and some of them are just absolute gems, troves that contain a culinary history that's often now no longer remembered. Some great cooks from the 19th century, Tan Pu Ying Blien Pasagon, Som Jim. There's several that are still extant, these books that contain recipes that just simply sing of an ancient Siam, sing of a scintillating taste, sing of a time when the quality of food was outstanding. Not that it isn't now, of course, but back then the least considered commodities of the kitchen were time and money, where time and money was spent and lavished on these types of cooking that ended up with the most remarkable, most delicious, most extraordinary of all types of food that I've ever come across. And I can assure you, I've done a little bit of study across the world, whether it's Western food, whether it's French food, whether it's Italian food. I know of no other cuisine that has such dimension, such quality, and such taste, so successfully contained in its dishes. I believe firmly, as an aside, I must tell you that Thai cuisine should be an intangible world heritage, because it is of the same merit of French food. But that's an aside. As I started to explore these older books, I started to realize the complexity and the sophistication of technique that was employed in those older recipes that you rarely see now. For instance, a Nahm with lots of kaffir lime zest and smoked fish, pla grop with garlic and chilies and grilled shrimp paste and dried prawns that's eaten with bamboo braised in coconut milk. นำพริกมะกรูดที่ใส่กระเทียมพริกเผาแล้วก็ปลากรอบด้วยที่เผาให้หอม Tastes that seem so remarkable, so different from just the commonplace recipes that one sees now. I guess it's possibly wrong of me to say that whether the recipes of today are better or not as good as the past, but one thing that I am certain of, at least to my mind and to my taste, they contain an interest, for me at least as a cook, that expresses some of the extraordinary cultural characteristics of Thailand, of its people, of its culture, of its cuisine. I've had restaurants in several countries. In Australia when I first started off, then in London and now back in Bangkok, a place which I now consider home. In Australia, I thought with a glib belief that we were doing something quite interesting. Up in Darwin, up in North Australia, the climate was very similar to Thailand, and we grew vegetables and fruits and was able to obtain quite remarkable ingredients, I thought then at least, to made sure that the food that we cooked in Australia 15 years ago, no longer, probably 20 years ago, was quite, I thought, at the time, outstanding. Then moved to London and set up a supply line where the ingredients were no longer grown in a foreign country but grown in Thailand and transported to London, quite a foreign country. And I thought then we had the most outstanding ingredients that were so fresh, so different and tasted yet quite different from the ingredients that were grown in Australia. But to be honest, nothing compares with cooking Thai food in Thailand with Thai ingredients. And one of the things that has begun to happen at Nahm is the close association of the recipes with the ingredients. Having the repertoire, those old recipes, and now having farmers growing old ingredients, heirloom ingredients, ingredients that are hard to find, whether they are somsa, whether they are ragam, whether they are things like gutu, grachai, or bayira, or some other strange or unusual ingredients that are impossible to find outside of Thailand. All these allowed for us at Nahm to be able to cook with an increasing degree of faithfulness, with an increasing degree of making sure that the tastes were faithful to those old recipes and faithful to the tastes as we understood it, Thai taste. I hasten to say, what the hell does a Westerner know about Thai taste? There's a certain argument for that, but after 25 years, if I can't cook good Thai food, then there's something wrong with my professional capabilities. The other thing is at Nahm, for instance, we have up to 30 staff in the kitchen, one of whom is a Westerner. But as a cook, as a Western cook, as a cook in general, there's an increasing understanding and appreciation of the importance of ingredients. And across the modern restaurant world in the West, there are sweeping movements that pursue the authenticity and the integrity of provenance and of execution in cooking. One example of it is called slow food. And there's a small chapter here, and it's a very important thing, I believe, because what slow food tries to achieve is to remove the rapid commercialization and industrialization of food and try to get back to its essence. That is, for instance, growing food that's organic that is trying to make sure that it's grown in a local area and where people are paid well for their produce, where the ingredients themselves are neither genetically mutated or in any way altered and transported quickly and freshly to ensure that the consumer can have the best possible ingredients. Ensuring that the techniques that are employed in the cooking aren't just cheap and easy and lazy techniques, but in fact techniques that have a merit, that have an integrity, that are crucial to the execution of a dish. Equally as important is another movement called farm to table movement, which tries to ensure that there is a closer connection between restaurants and the farm, whether it's through vegetables or with vegetables rather, or with fish or with meat. And they are fantastically persuasive and winning and successful ideas because the restaurant world is changing so much from when I first started to cook. It's becoming far more socially responsible, far more aware of its responsibility in not exploiting the environment and ensuring that there's a sustainable approach to cooking and purchasing ingredients. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Siamese wisdom that I would like to mention is that there is in Thailand the beginning of a movement which I think is far more significant than the slow food and farm to table movement. Not because it doesn't contain those same aspects within its aspirations, but because it goes much deeper. And I believe it accords with something that is the second aspect of Thailand. It accords to some tenets, some beliefs of Buddhism. And this movement is called Eco-Buddhism, where all those attributes of being responsible, of being viable, of being sustainable, of pursuing the right ingredient, of following the right technique, of not exploiting the environment, of ensuring that one has the least carbon footprint, of ensuring that one buys locally, ensuring that one supports the local community. All those aspects that are worthwhile and full of merit are done not just in the material way that Westerners think, but because it's the firm and steady and profound application of Buddhism. And I think that's a remarkable thing, because what that does mean is you do not have a Western implant or a transported idea, but in fact have an organic idea that is part of Thailand's soul, as firmly rooted and as profoundly entwined in Thai culture as Buddhism is in itself. And to me, that's indicative of the Siamese wisdom that I see threading through many aspects of the restaurant industry here as it begins to blossom and grow. Because Bangkok is becoming a hub of restaurants. Of course, Thailand's always been a fantastic place in which to eat. Good God, how could one ever deny that wonderful and delicious aspect of Thailand when you could eat on the streets or in the markets. But sometimes perhaps the restaurants were not as good as perhaps they have become now. And I don't mean my restaurant, but I can see across the board what's happening in Thailand is that there are more and more Thais who have travelled overseas, who have been educated overseas, or Thais here who have aspirations just to do the right thing. You have these people who are just doing the most extraordinary job. That means that Bangkok no longer is just a place that's a nice place to eat. It's also a good place to dine as well. That to me is one of the most thrilling things that's happening in modern Bangkok, where as a cook, I am beginning to enjoy the possibility of these old recipes, these recipes that have traditions and roots and access to a distant, delicious, if somewhat mysterious past, combined with ingredients, heirloom ingredients, old ingredients, uncommon ingredients that give a complexion, a dimension, a depth to the food as it's cooked. where technique is employed with a complexity and a sophistication that shows how ancient, how developed, and how sophisticated Thai food is. And that is a remarkable recipe for success. And as a cook, there are all these combinations which makes for a successful operation. But there's a little bit more as I've started to become older, a little bit more that adds yet another dimension of Thainess to the operation that we're starting to do. Across the world, there is the idea of proper corporate governance, a responsibility, a social responsibility to not to destroy the environment, which I've mentioned before, to not to exploit the people with whom you work, nor the community in which you operate. And I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that's a fantastic idea that the modern world, the modern business world is starting to see that there's more to a business than just merely the operation and the production of goods within that business. In my case, producing a meal. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. There's also a movement here and across many Buddhist countries called economic Buddhism, which espouses that a profit, a business is not a profit alone, but it is the combination of many aspects, many strands to a business, where the satisfaction of the people working is a significant part of evaluating whether a business is successful or not. Where it's just not about what's produced, but the means by which it's produced. Neither exploiting the environment nor exploiting the people with whom you work. And as I get older, I understand the wisdom of that. I understand the propriety of that. I understand the rightness, the correctness of that. And this is the thing that in old Thailand, in Thailand, there are these strands that are now sweeping across the Western world that are a traditional part of the way that Thais have operated. And to me, that's true Siamese wisdom. And to me, that's the finish. ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ Thank you very much Mr. David Thompson หลังจากนี้นะคะเราจะมีช่วง Q&A session ท่านใดที่มีคำถามสามารถที่จะยกมือได้เลยนะคะเดี๋ยวทางทีมงานของเราจะนำไมโครโฟนไปให้หรือว่าถ้าไม่สะดวกถามเองเขียนมาก็ได้นะคะเดี๋ยวจูนจะถามให้มีคำถามไหมคะเรียนเชิญเลยค่ะ
Okay. I would like to know your idea or opinion about gastronomy, molecular gastronomy, cooking technique, and Thai food.
My personal opinion? My personal opinion is I absolutely hate it. My personal opinion is that I absolutely loathe molecular food because to me it truncates, it destroys, it undermines what is something traditional and something that is substantial. I guess the reason why I don't like molecular food is this, is that if it's taken 1,000,000 years for a chili or a shallot or a piece of garlic to evolve, why should we change it and turn it into a foam and then dip it into nitrous oxide to watch it just fizzle away? When I started cooking, I thought that what a cook should do is enhance with a light hand the taste of the ingredients whilst respecting its integrity. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but my personal taste is it is not what I like. However, I do accept that it's just my opinion. I'm not going to condemn anybody else for doing it. It's just I could not bring myself to do it. I've got too much respect for the ingredient.
It's different personal preferences.
Yes, but it's one that I would kill to support.
Thank you very much.
ขอบคุณมากค่ะมีท่านใดมีคำถามอีกไหมคะ เรียนเชิญเลยค่ะขอทีมงานไมโครโฟนทางด้านนี้ค่ะ
Okay, you live in Thailand more than 20 years and you are in food business. How do you think, in your point of view, how do you think about the restaurant? They said the Thai food, Thai restaurant, but the owner is supposed maybe Vietnamese or Chinese, but the ingredients suppose gap hao gai. There are 10 ingredients, but when you taste it, they put only one. What do you think about this, in your opinion?
It's
Thank
what
you.
we just discussed earlier before coming on stage.
I blush at times because, God, I own a Thai restaurant and I think we're trying to be faithful to it. It's very difficult for outsiders, for non-Thais to understand Thai food and its complexity. And this is one of the intangible things that I find about it, is that it doesn't follow set rules or set recipes. It's an instinctive understanding of taste where balance, ratchat, rotgrom, is so very important, and it's often forgotten or not even appreciated. I mean, I look with disbelief at times when I go overseas and I taste, in particular Westerners, interpretation of Thai food and just think, my God, a bottle of fish sauce and a bunch of coriander does not make Thai food. Just as, for instance, with Pat Bai Gua Pao, you need several ingredients, including prickinu suan. You do need your Thai garlic, not Chinese garlic. You do need your proper and fresh Bai Gua Pao, and possibly you need a fried egg on the side too.
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ Can you call that a fusion version of Thai food? Doing like a weird version of pad kapao, but in their way. Is that,
look,
can you call that fusion?
Sometimes you can call it aberrance, Kunjun, in the sense of there is a latitude, of course, in all Thai cooking. You know, if you go back to old recipes, they list ingredients only. They do not give you the specific amounts because implicit in all Thai recipes is variation, where the cook is expected to vary things. And working with Thai cooks, I know they bloody well will. But there are conventions of taste that are followed through. So, for instance, with a green curry, it has got to be spicy, it's got to be salty, for instance. Or a sour orange curry is salty and sour with no sweetness. Or a Nahm prikapi has certain characteristics, or a lon has other characteristics which are held by convention to be absolutely essential in order to ensure that taste, that dish, is correct. So, for instance, you know, let's say you want to do a lon gung, shall we, just to change the subject a little bit. It has coconut cream, it has minced prawns, often some minced pork fat or pork as well, seasoned with tamarind, palm sugar and fish sauce. And, you know, correctly and simply it just has some sliced red shallots and some chili and maybe some coriander, eaten with fresh vegetables. But there's some who might want to add some fresh ginger to it. There are others who might say, I want to add a prick pao to it. There are others who might say, I want to add some khao mao to the dish as well. Implicit, the genius of Thai culture, the genius of Thai culinary culture is the inventiveness and the innovation that Thais have, but they manage to balance it without betraying the traditional aspects of their food. So that if you do it properly, you can be both faithful and yet still have an individual interpretation. But that's because you understand the basic mechanics and tenets and principles of the dish and the cuisine. If you don't understand that, then it can lead to not only just fusion, it leads to indigestion.
คิดว่าทุกท่านได้คำตอบแล้วนะคะ มีท่านใดมีคำถามอีกไหมคะ เรียนเชิญค่ะ
Okay, I'm really glad that I'm here. You are talking about your style, which is the old school, and how can the younger chef in Thailand to deliver our legacy, which is you already know that we put a lot of time. I mean, hour and just.
You see, this is the thing. My understanding of Thai food, what we try to do at Nahm reflects my character. That is, I want to be as authentic as possible, and possibly because I'm not Thai, I'm more urgently required, obliged to follow it more faithfully than Thais themselves. With the keenness of a convert, is how you say in English. The keenness of somebody who's come across a new cuisine. I'm far more conservative than most Thais. I drive my guys mad in the kitchen as they bite at the bit to try and add this or that, and I keep on looking at them with an arched eye and a clicking of my teeth, saying no. When you're within the culture, when Thais cook themselves, they have far much more latitude, far much more breadth of possibility than my conservative point of view, which I developed 20 years ago and have been faithful trying to maintain. I can't bear molecular food, but I can fully understand how Thais will begin to experiment, and this is the exciting thing that is happening in Bangkok itself, is that Thais are not only experimenting with Thai food, but with Western food. I look at, for instance, the Kundon at Ladu. I look at Nan at Little Beast. I look at the cooks on the streets, all of whom have their own interpretations as valid, possibly even more valid than mine. There's no limitation, no restriction, except all one is obliged to do is to be faithful to what oneself believes. Not what I believe, but what you believe.
ท่านใดมีคำถามอีกไหมคะเรียนเชิญค่ะขอเป็นคำถามสุดท้ายนะคะเรียนเชิญค่ะ
Having been with Thai cuisine for more than 20 years, I would like to know what is your favorite dish?
My last one, actually, it depends. It resonated to me over there when you talked about Pat Bai Gra Pao. I love Nua Pat Bai Gra Pao, but you know what? I argue with my guys about what should go into it. Me, I think it should just be garlic, salt, chili, minced beef, holy basil, and a little bit of fish sauce. Others like to add oyster sauce. I've seen others who'll put chili jam. I've seen others that will employ green beans to a fakyao. Of course, I have to strike them across the head when they do something like that. But it's a simple dish like that is I delight in. And yet there's another one that also is pretty good. A nice old-fashioned plarasap.
ปลาร้าสับ
ใช่ครับ
ว้าว
แต่ที่จะเป็นปลาร้าคุณภาพดีๆครับ
ค่ะ
ที่จะมีปลาร้าปลาช่อนปลาร้าปลาดึกแล้วก็ปลาร้าน้ำปลาร้าปลากระดีด้วยครับ
โอ้โห
มีปลาร้า3ชนิดแล้วก็
ค่ะ
เข้ากันแล้วก็สับกับหอมแดงแล้วก็พริกแล้วก็ใบโหระพาอร่อยสุดยอด
Wow you make everyone hungry now ขอเสียงปรบมือดังๆให้ด้วยนะคะคุณ David Thompson ค่ะ
ขอบคุณมากครับ
Thank you so much
It's a pleasure to
Thank you very
I will
much
see you again
Thank
ขอบคุณ
you
มากครับ
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ